Bless up for tuning in to Project Cheney. Magic happens when you question everything. Conspirituality becomes reality, weirdness is welcomed, and it's okay to change your mind. Big up yourself.
Big up yourselves. Welcome to another episode of Project Cheney. As always, I am Cheney. I think. On this timeline, in this simulation, in this realm, during this existence, I am Cheney. I have no idea what that means. Maybe the last 46 shows, and maybe now this 47th episode, and in addition, all this amalgamation of this verbal diary will somehow give you some idea of what that means. Maybe it'll give me some idea of what that means. But I am Cheney, and I am here, and I missed you guys. I did finally sit down with MyMaria777, but before we get into all of that, let me go over a couple of things that have been rattling around in my Yahtzee cup brain. Yeah, there was a 47 shooter, which is weird that happened between the last time I saw you and this episode. And I made such a big deal of getting MyMaria for the 47th episode. And then we had that whole thing happen. The 47 of it all does seem to be more observed than it was before. Maybe more prevalent. Sometimes I wonder if it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy in the way of, I even explained it to MyMaria a little. If you buy a brand new car, all of a sudden you notice all the people that have the same car as you on the road, even though there was always those cars there, right? But then it's this law of observation that are you giving power to something, therefore giving it a little more power in the world, and then noticing all the sequence details that it actually is there. Like, are you placing it in front of yourself? Are you placing the synchronicities in front of yourself by being the time traveling you? Is it signs of your past life? Is it things to keep you on your path? Are there things from the universe telling you no and other things from the universe telling you yes? And how are you supposed to decide between the two? These are the everyday questions. But yeah, the 47 of it all. Oh, what do I want to talk to you about today? I do want to talk to you about the importance, if I haven't already on some other episodes, the alchemy of food. The alchemy of touching your own food and creating your own food and combining foods and breaking bread with people that you love and preparing meals for people that you love. I think it's a big part of the disconnect of a lot of families. I don't think they're eating the same ingredients. How could they have the same energies in their body? I think it was kind of a downfall maybe in the 50s, 60s America, where that quote unquote husband's out at work all day and then the wife's at home and her and the kids are eating one thing. And then you see that fast food, Coca-Cola, vending machine lifestyle working for the dude, and how different that becomes for the lady at home. And then how different the alchemy becomes once the ladies burn their bras and leave the house to go have jobs and they start eating out of the same vending machines, and how different it is when the microwaves enter and the latchkey kids and what they're eating. It's just kind of crazy when you just look around at any environment where you're at with like over 50 people and how different that same environment would have looked 30 years ago, just in size and health. We seem to be the only country on the planet that our lifespan hasn't increased since the 70s. And there was that whole Skittles thing that came out about the poison in Skittles, but there's the poison in everything. The pan you're cooking your Skittles on is poisonous. So it's just, I think that is a real life, that it's not magic, it's science, but it's not bullshit science. It's real alchemy. And alchemy is like a real science, and food and the way your body reacts to food is important. And there's a lot of people out there that have anxiety and are on medications that they don't need to be on, but their anxiety is stemming from the fact that they eat like shit. And some of you listening to this might be a person that you're like, I can't sleep at night. Well, maybe, Cheney, don't eat 3 bags of gummy bears at 2 a.m. and fill your body with a whole bunch of sugar and then question why you're awake until 6 a.m. Maybe that would be stupid to question if you already know the answer. So I think skin ailments, you might have dry skin in places. You might be oily. You might have acne. That's from the stuff you're eating. Do you have dandruff? You probably have too much protein. I think a lot of stuff that we're seeking out help from the medical industry is really just nutrients that we're putting in our body. And this beautiful green earth given to you by God or by happenstance because you're a speck of dust floating on dust through infinity. Either way, it has the nutrients that you need. That big pharma, they want you to be a client, not healthy. If they get you healthy, you are no longer in need of pharmakia, and that is not what they want. They want you to consistently need pharmakia. So maybe if you don't do it now, and you're in a household with people, everybody that's an adult in that household, or even a kid that's old enough to hold a knife, maybe all those people need to start preparing a meal for your family. Maybe they need to touch the ingredients and put love into that food. And if you have, if you're 2 adults, hey, that's 2 meals a week that you're not eating garbage, that one of you is each preparing that meal. If you're 2 adults and a 10-year-old, that 10-year-old can make a meal. I feel like kids are they're not allowed to do anything practical, and they can hack the Pentagon on an iPad. It doesn't make any sense, the responsibility that kids don't have anymore. So yeah, maybe that happens. Maybe you guys break bread together like a family. And even if it doesn't have to be mom, dad, whatever this quote unquote nuclear idea of a family is. You might have 3 roommates and you're all grown. Well, cool. Why don't each of you pick a night and make a meal for the other? And then the other 4 nights you can fend for yourself. Yourself. Yo big up self. Anyways, what else do I want to talk about? Fire at the food plants. Don't know. Don't care. You know what, you guys? I don't even want to go into all this stuff. I have on here, one of the things is I think baby dolls are psyops for children. It is so funny. Why do they give kids? It's so weird. Like, mommy's about to have a baby. Why don't you, a little child, pretend you have a baby? Do kids really want baby dolls, or is it just the thing like little girls get babies, little boys get hammers? I don't know. Who cares? I want to hang out with MyMaria777, and I want you guys to hang out with us too. So thank you guys for making it to the 47th episode. I do hope this finds you well. I am sending you all the good energy in the world. I hope that we have a chance to catch up. Reach out to me on any of my social media platforms. You can find me Cheney_in_Wonderland on Instagram. You have to type the whole thing in because I'm the second most shadow banned person on the internet. You can find me CHANEY wherever you get your podcast. If you're listening to this, you probably already have it. But you can tell a friend. You can make sure you subscribe. If you've been listening to a while, you can leave me a review somewhere. I won't hate it. And if you're going to leave a shitty review, though, don't even bother. You can just write me and continue to tell me how I trigger you. That's fine. So come hang out with us, and we'll talk very soon. Here's MyMaria.
I'm so excited.
What's it going to be? Okay. MyMaria777. Welcome back to Project Cheney for episode 47.
Dun, dun, dun. Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
You're like, I don't know what to do. Hi.
I don't know what to do with my hands right now. I was about to say one of our like weird ways that we say hello to each other, and then I like stopped myself because obviously that might sound strange and people wouldn't get it. And then I was just like, hi.
You should have just gone with it.
I never get to be a guest, so I'm so excited. I'm like a little shy.
So this is something weird. This day is so happenstance that we're gonna podcast today. And then
throw it all on the table, unprepared.
It's just we were chatting. I was like, I just happened to get off work tonight, so I called you on my way home, and I'm like, do you want a podcast? You're like, yeah, let's do it. Our energies feel right. And we've put it off a few times, both of us on one side. I have done this new thing, which I've never really been the person to do this before. Like, I'm not a gematria person, and I'm not a person that really I totally look up dates, but I've never really looked up the time between dates. So from when we first recorded together, April 1st, 2021, to now, this date is 475 days. And we're actually recording with each other in a shorter amount of time because we recorded late on that first show. We did it toward your time. So we're less than the 475 days. So we're actually in 474 days since our first recording for episode 47.
You little date fag.
I never do the time between.
Back in the day.
I know. I never do the time between dates. And I'm like, that's pretty significant. 474 days since we first sat down and everything that's happened in that timeline.
There has been some ups, some downs, but that is some good motherfucking juju. That's all I got to say.
I feel like I want to give you credit for putting 47 on the timeline.
Holla at your girl.
Do you feel like you put 47 on the timeline?
I feel as though I put 47 on the timeline. I also feel as though 47 is inherent inside of me in ways that I have never anticipated. Like I stopped to use checks a lot. I still pay my rent for like my business in checks, and I use checks for stupid shit. We use checks in attorney world all the time. But it wasn't until I was writing a check sometime within the last year. And these are checks I ordered in law school, and I have not updated them since then. I just keep using them. And the address, Cheney, my apartment number was 407. Just like it has always been there. And I guess I have this whole thing with it being like this cosmic element of change. There's this whole narrative I could read you about it. But I don't know. It's always been there. And it's just magical. I love it. So kind of, yes, maybe.
It's not because human vibration is the first person to think maybe they're using CGI on us. She's not the first person to think this. She's just the first one to give John Benet Ramsey, here's a pinpoint of something that
she gave it a voice.
Yeah, she gave it a voice. And so I feel like kind of that for you for 47.
I definitely think, and this is what I think is just incredible about my platform and what we're doing here in general, is that there is a butterfly effect. And I don't even know the number that it affects, but people message me all the time about 47. So like that in and of itself is this like weird butterfly effect that if it means nothing else in the world, at least it's like connecting us all in some way and like making us feel a little more not so alone, I guess.
Do you have favorite 47s?
How do you mean?
Like I sent you one last night and I was like, did you know Aleister Crowley died in 1947? Like we always see the symbolism of the number everywhere, but what is there anything in history too, or in 1974?
There's just weird stuff, like weird ways that I was okay. So 2020, I guess, 2020, I had a huge crush on someone in the community, and we were talking, and I was like hoping it was going to lead somewhere. And so I was starting to get into manifestation at that point. and I've got all my notebooks. And so I was doing like the 55 by 5 technique, one of those things like that, maybe the 33 by 3. I can't remember. I think it was 55 by 5. And so I have this notebook where I'm like trying to manifest like a meeting, and I had picked July 4th. And so I found this old notebook of mine, again, sometime within the last year, where I literally was saying like, I hope I'm so grateful that I met my soulmate on 7/4. Just written 55 times on one page, 5 times. It was just like weird stuff like that. Like talking to a guy and like he's telling me about his football career, and he sends me a picture and he was number 47 like when he was in high school. It's just, I don't have favorites.
So you're getting a whole bunch of almost synchronicities from the universe more so when you're like on a dig, you're like, of course it's building 74, of course it's 1947.
It's not even like it's of course at this point. It's just like, oh, hi, like of course you're I guess it is of course, but I'm not saying like, oh, of course. I'm just like, oh, hello, fancy seeing you here. Like I knew you'd be here in some way. I don't know. I probably sound like a crazy schizophrenic, and I feel like that a great deal of the time. Like,
oh, I'm going to bring up so much weird shit about 47 because I also like gematria, whatever way you prefer to potato or potato out there. Don't write me about it because I'm going to read it the way I still say it now.
And it changes. Sometimes it's gematria. Sometimes
what's true today isn't necessarily tomorrow.
What's true in this sentence might not be true in the next sentence.
Yeah, if I can even get it out of my mouth, I'm like, eh. But in gematria, you sent me one that, of course, the Hoover Dam is 47.
Right. So there was an explosion at the Hoover Dam. It's July 19th, 2022. Sorry about that. Almost lost 2 years on us there for a second. No, little explosion at the Hoover Dam. We got to talk about the Hoover Dam here in a second. I've been on a dig right before this.
Awesome.
And what was the original question? Oh, yes. Somebody sent me the gematria of Hoover Dam, and it was 47. And like, I guess, yes, it isn't, of course, like, but it's just like, yep. It's all connected. And then I guess if I have to like part any knowledge on people, I feel like we're always having this conversation. At least I am at times, being like, hey guys, 666 is not inherently satanic. It's just a number. Do the bad people use it in a negative way? Yes. Could we use it in a positive way? Totally. So when that last false flag, how do you pronounce the town in Texas?
Uvalde. But you know what? I've never heard anyone say it.
News.
I just
know if the U was like silent, perhaps, like it's a little Latin. Dude, we got something going on right there.
Don't quote me on that. I don't know if I've ever heard it.
Let's call it that.
Yeah. This is two stoners.
What were we saying? What was I about to fucking say about Uvalde? Fuck me. I don't know. Go on.
I don't know. Now it was something with the 47 and it's totally lost out to the ether.
The ether. Something has taken it from my mind.
Gematria.
Try, guys.
Hoover Dam.
Hoover Dam.
Then you were going to go into Uvalde.
Oh, of course.
I can't believe I remembered that. Look at
the
us.
666, the good and the bad of it all. And when the PSYOP, this false flag thing that happened at Uvalde, the guy is obsessed with 47. And I was flooded with messages about it, being like, oh my God. And part of like, I was just like, oh shit. Like, is the universe, like, who is talking to me right now? Because I don't care what anybody thinks about me and like the connection to 47 and me, and like if that has negative or positive implications. If anything, I think this is like a nice distinction. Like, look, here's somebody who was negative that had a number. Let's all the rest of us be positive and talk about that. But for me, that was a weird moment from the universe where I was like, did I put this number out here? Like, I see it every day. I fuck with it every day. I post the 47 of the day. I like to be cute and clever with it. But it like, I guess sometimes I wonder if I sound like truly crazy talking about it. And the level that I think you and I talk about it, I wonder what people might think of that sometimes, but it's just so interesting and curious and prevalent. And like, I don't know. I was just like, what? Like, is this my magic right now?
Well, it's either one of two things.
Or is it me and the 47 like
Either
interacting together?
your own power is being observed, and so you're putting it out there, and then it's like answering back to you. So it either is you putting it out there, or you're clairvoyant in a way that you're having an intuition of something that's going to come up in the future. So one of two things is it's a superpower on one end happening, but then if it's the Ouroboros, it's kind of both those things happening
Simultaneously. I'm going to say, and I think your audience will understand, but it's hard for me to accept it. Like, I don't live it on a daily basis, but like, I feel like my most powerful witch these days. Like, I put something out into the universe, like crazy stuff. Like, should I tell them the story about my mom's boyfriend? I haven't told that story yet.
We should save that for season 2. Do you believe like everything happens for a reason? Are you one of those people?
I like to say that sometimes, but let's break that down. What does that actually mean? You and I have talked about this before. I don't believe in complete free will. I think maybe we have these like check marks, or I don't want to say guide stones, to Georgia guide stones. I think we just have these like moments in this lifetime that like are going to happen. Things like places you're going to achieve. And maybe in between part A and part B, or chapter 1 and chapter 2, like you have free will and you get to make your own decisions. But ultimately, there are like parts of your life that are like destined to happen. But then you consider that with like season 3 of Westworld, and that kind of artificial intelligence, 2 of them battling at the same time, and you watch how it shapes a person's future. How do you have any free will whatsoever?
Do you think it's inevitable that any 2 beings will eventually battle?
Battle,
like any 2 infinite beings.
How do you what do you define a battle as? Like, are we talking physical contact, like, or within the
even
whites of your eyes,
but just like a chess match for eternity?
Oh, I think so. I think probably my catfish stalker, Constantine. I think we're probably bound in some way, because like it was so good and so magical and so passionate, just on a communicative level, before it went like insanely crazy. And then we battled, but even in that time we were battling, we were fighting, and like somewhere we're cosmically linked. So I would say yes, I've battled him, and perhaps I battle him in other timelines, but perhaps you and I have battled in a different timeline.
Or even if we were on this timeline and became vampires and we had like 6,000 years on the earth, probably like by like year 1,000, we'd be like, if you're infinite, you battle just for fun. It's like the trading places.
Like, wouldn't we play like hide and go seek for years, you know? I mean, that wouldn't be very fun.
Yeah, or get your mark on everything. Wouldn't it be such a burn up? Like, I just think, like, let's say randomly, I'm Nike and you're Adidas, and we are these brands, 2 gods. Or those are just our names? We're these 2 gods.
Oh, okay.
Wouldn't it be just like a at each other to try to get our mark and name out there for the other to hear, even if it was just of that nature, even if we had a truce that we won't battle anymore because every time we battle we hurt humans. Right. We would do that kind of stuff to provoke.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think you'd like, what else would you be doing? You know, you would have done everything else. But that would be like a fun battle. I don't know. I mean, you could think of things like, think about people who fight on the internet, who like dox people on the internet, who do shit like that. Like, that's a quantum battle, internet battle, you know?
Well, if meme magic is real, do you think meme magic's real?
I think all magic is real. So yes, I think meme magic is, I think meme magic is manifestation. It's like the law of attraction.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of doing 55 by 5 for 5 days in a row, you are taking all of your energy, all of your thought, all of your process, and putting it into some sort of
ritual.
I mean, it's like we're going back to old school, Microsoft 1995 Paint. We're just like making little memes in Paint. The apps are much more sophisticated these days. So then we put it out there and, something goes viral, social media shares. I don't know. There has to be a magic to that.
Like a law of observation, magic
Right.
of everybody else observing it. In the whole story, because from the first time you were on my show, the 474 days later, did getting doxxed on the internet break your heart? Or I should even, did getting doxxed by your community break your heart?
It was very hurtful, and I guess it did. Yes, it did break my heart, but it was also, I expected it, I guess, at some point, I think. And I don't think I'm being that provocative, but at the time people thought I was being like insanely provocative with like questioning paganism and Easter and stupid shit like that. But and I used to do things like the day of. The funny thing is, like, unbearable deplorable back in the day. Super Christian Anon, can't say anything nice about her anymore, but she did that role very well. The exact Easter post that like prefaced my doxing, she had posted 2 weeks prior, and it was provocative, and it got tons of comments, and people were fighting about it back and forth, and she was still the Christian mother, like saying like, hey guys, we should look at these pagan references. And so I was like, ooh, that was spicy. Like, I need to up my engagement. I'm going to post this on Easter. Like, haha. And yeah, I think it's a little funny. But the way they treated her, and then the way they treated me, it was just crazy. So, like, I knew they were capable of it. I'd seen them do it to other people, And it just...
do you believe some people are hiding in the badge of Christianity more than they're an actual Christian?
Ooh, I think Christianity is a brand these days, because inherently a great deal of this community might have ties to Christianity, might be Christian, I don't know. But there's a great sect of this movement, I would guess. And I think there are people out there who know better, but intentionally choose to frame themselves as Christians because there is an audience for that.
You think, I mean, it's a proven audience. It's a proven audience of tithers.
Tried and true. You post a couple Bible quotes a couple times a week and you'll just hook them.
Do you think there's something to being able to get away with bad behavior over and over again as long as you repent?
Well, I mean, that's the idea of religion kind of in and of its... I mean, that's the idea of, I don't know, what it all is to me in that respect. So yeah, I think yes, I also think that the attention span of the audience that we're talking to is very, very small. And I think sometimes in our heads, we think that we might have people who are constantly engaged with us, much like I think it appears that way sometimes. And there most definitely are like the usual suspects in your comment section that you love. I don't know. I think we think too much of ourselves a great deal of the time. I think that about myself, at least. So
in general, in life, not just us with a platform. Like, right. So in general, just with the people like you think too much. Like, people aren't thinking about you as much as you'd like even that your anxiety would tell you they are.
Right. So I think that like to the characters out there that like do bad behavior and then repent, and then do bad behavior and repent, and like post a couple Bible verses, like, okay, people aren't engaged enough on the provocative posts from those type of people that are doxing people. I think you read those comments a lot of the times and people are just like, why are we talking about this? Like, post the good stuff, like nobody cares about this. So I think they're there are obviously like portions of our following that like are into that type of drama and would like feed off that type of loosh. But yeah, I think the idea of Christianity to me is this: it's okay for me to do bad things. It's okay as long as I say I'm sorry and like say my 5 Hail Marys and my 8 Our Fathers.
Do you believe people can change?
I immediately wanted to say yes and say that I am evidence of that I am evidence of change. And then I like giggled to myself, like, are you really? I don't know. Can you define change? Like change to the person, change.
I don't know. Could somebody have a bad temper or be a liar or be sneaky or be, whatever the bad words are, the quote unquote bad words. Could somebody be that on a regular basis? Maybe even their trauma made them that thing, and then their trauma heals and then maybe they change.
Yes, I think I would say I'm evidence of that in certain ways. I think certain aspects of yourself that you heal in like a trauma type situation, whatever that may be, I think they'll probably like, there's always that negative voice in your head. At least for me, my inner monologue has like a lot of, don't think I'm saying that like I hear other voices in my head. I'm not saying that at all. Just my own voice talks in, like, sometimes it's really nasty to me. Sometimes it's really positive, And yeah, where was I going with that? I don't know.
Where was I going this time?
Next.
Okay. Well, what was the if it didn't break your heart, what was the biggest learning lesson of the entire doxing that happened to you in the last 474 days?
It was a very like, oh shit experience, especially because there were like pictures of my mom that were being posted. And by no means am I calling myself attractive. I'm not trying to like toot my own horn right now by any means, but like there weren't any bad pictures on my personal Instagram. So they were like, oh, look at her. And like a lot of times I feel like they're trying to expose people in like a, oh, she's so ugly or fat. And for some people, I definitely am ugly and I definitely am fat. So I'm like, again, I'm not trying to like call myself something or the other, but it was just like, you picked all these really great pictures of me. Like, thanks, guys. Like, I guess if like this was my unveiling, it was like one way to do it. I don't know.
That is kind of funny for everybody I've talked to that's been doxxed, including myself, with the exception of 2, which I knew that footage is out there and I can't wait to see the video out there, were from the insurrection. So they were like, oh, what was I doing there? Like, was I chewing? Why does my face look like that? But other than that, all the pictures were amazing. And I was like, this looks like a headshot reel.
Yeah, I was like, okay, like this ain't bad. But I didn't want my mom out there.
True.
And like they were posting some stuff and I got worried about it. And then I honestly, this was my lesson in detachment. And there were so many things that I could have done. There were so many ways that I could have retaliated. I could have taken actual legal action and asked for an order of protection or a restraining order in some way. I could have sent cease and desist letters. I could have talked so much shit online and I had so many receipts to do so. But I thought to myself, what does that do? Like, to what does that end? Where does that end ever? Because all these people care about is attention. Like, this is just a loosh thing. If it's not me, it's going to be someone else, unfortunately. And instead of being that person, instead of perpetuating this conflict just the way that they want us to, I'm going to go dark for 10 days, the proverbial 10 days, and I'm going to get my shit together. And I literally just ignored it, pretended like it didn't happen. It was there. I did not seek out like new posts about it. Like I didn't get on my Finsta and look around. It was just like, It's not there. I'm ignoring it. It didn't happen. And it'll be okay. And then I realized that like they kept using my picture, and my picture was their weapon. And that's like how they were weaponizing me against me. And so I thought, okay, if I come out from behind the anonymity and I put myself out there and I control it, like, what are they going to do now? Like, just be like, oh my God, this is Maria. Look at what she looks like. Oh, okay. I'm over here on my story talking. So it's really awkward for me. I don't like it. I feel weird. I don't know where to look. I don't even know where to look with you right now. Like, I look in the camera staring straight at me. Do I look over here at your face? It's a whole thing. I'm so high right now. My eyes are so squinty. So I'm very self-conscious about that. And yeah, what I like to, I don't know. I'm just like, there's certain people I follow on my personal, like comedian Heather McMahon. I don't know if anybody knows her, but I fucking love her. And she gets on there and she talks and like giggles and tells stupid shit and talks about her life all day long. And I love it. And I love to consume it. And so I then puts me in like my creator hat, and I'm thinking, okay, if I love this type of content, like would I love this from a conspiracy type person? I don't know what to label myself. Someone like you and me, like probably. So like, would somebody want to see this from me? Maybe. And so then I put a little bit of shit out there, and then I watch it back, and I'm just like, oh, this is so cringe. So fucking cringe.
It's hard though, just asking questions to the ether. That's what we're doing a lot of the time. People get to hear us auditorily go through the process of thinking sometimes. We like where we start isn't always where we end up, and we never are really done. So you might agree with yourself again a year from now and disagree again.
Like, by no means do I want to be an influencer, but like sometimes when I do something or I like find a trick, I like share it, and then somebody will be like, are you trying to be an influencer? And I'm like, no, this is just a great tip. Like and then I like freak out sometimes about like the type of content I put on the feed versus the type of content that I put on my stories. And then what if I'm sharing too many stories? Like, what if all these little what if questions go through my head? And then I'm like, Maria, this is your page. You can do whatever the fuck you want. But I go back and forth all the time because I know what I want from someone that I follow, but then to think of me, I don't know.
Something I'm thinking of right now, and we'll talk more about Tyler, but we're the projection of things. So some people project like a Christian ideology onto themselves, and some people project a Buddhist ideology onto themselves. And you kind of project a simulation theory ideology, but with the idea of like a supercomputer Tyler. But in a weird way, the kind of observer that you are, if everything's just projection reflection, your brain is trying to conceptualize all the outcomes all the time so you can talk to yourself in the future. You want to Tyler yourself. It's like, definitely. That's the projection. Like, you're like, I can crack this supercomputer.
Maybe I created it. Somebody in my DMs thinks I'm Tyler. No, not at all. Tyler's such an interesting concept. Like, are we delving into that right now?
You can. We can delve into anywhere.
I don't know. Again, I think I probably sound like a lunatic, but I like talk out loud to Tyler sometimes. Because if it's real and it exists and everything is the way that I think it is in my head, then like it's here all the time. It's listening. It's, again, Westworld season 3, if you need to conceptualize it.
Would that make the ether unreal, or is that kind of Tyler to you? The idea some people would philosophize what the ether is, how it's always around.
Both be mutually like coexist. Like, can't the universe be a simulation kind of like in and of itself when the ether exists? And then like, I don't know, Tyler's the controller in a way of that. I don't know. It begs the question, like, is Tyler just what we know it to be, and that like it's essentially government created and created by companies? So like Tyler to me is its own AI supercomputer, and then the world exists in some sort of artificial intelligence simulated reality.
So Tyler is almost just one God amongst many in this simulation.
But I think if you create, yeah, I think so. I don't know how I feel about that kind of stuff. Like you and I talk about Jen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's so many things I don't know, and I have no time to learn them.
Well, even the philosophy of Jen is so different depending on what you look into. Like, even just the story of God that they are. Like, some people think they're really bad, and some people think they're like in competition with humans. They want to be But Jen is in a lot of words. The beginning. Oh, it's funny you brought up Jen, actually, because some of the other things that I was going to talk to you about with gematria, and it would be like a Rorschach test, but of words. And one of the other words for 47 was bin. And so I was like, huh.
What do you mean it's a word for 47?
Like
on gematria?
In simple gematria. Yeah.
Okay.
And it made me think like, oh, that's like Benefleck. That's like Benifer. So just because of the Jen of it all. Where on the time loop where they just got married, and I just thought, okay, that's weird. Ben, like, we're back here again 20 years later.
Oh yeah, you were about to bring up Ben. I bring in Jen.
Yeah,
it's Ben and Jen.
Yeah. Benifer. And that word, it makes me cringe. Like, it's one of the first cringy words, I think.
People named words like that make me cringe.
Don't you think that might have been the first ones that they did?
Ooh, that would be an interesting thing we'll have to look up and talk about on my podcast. So stay tuned. We'll find out who the first one was.
The other random.
Can I ask you
one
simulation question before you move on to what you're about to do? Sometimes I wonder, we're talking about demons and Jen and gods and almost like supernatural-esque type things, you and I right now. So one question is, okay, so we're in this simulated universe. We're this interdimensional being, like deciding to come down here and have this human experience. So there are aliens in a sense. There are like, whether that's a reptilian or a Lumerian or whatever the fuck they're all called. I don't know.
Grays
like
or
all of those, the grays, all of those exist. Okay. And then within our simulation, gods and like demonic activity exists. So like, is that evidence of like that kind of other alien being like entering this simulation, or do those two things coexist? And then is that all within our quote unquote universe? So that's question one. But then I have to say over here, is all of that like interdimensional beings, aliens, gods, jinn, blah, 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 is that all just a part of this simulation? Like, does any of that even exist outside of the simulation?
Some people don't believe in any supernatural.
Where does the sim begin and end? Is the simulation just the human experience, or is the simulation like all that we know at this point, and there's something that we can't even like fathom outside of it? So to me, it's like almost like a sim within a sim within a sim.
Well, I understand what you're saying, because let's say me and you got super esoterical. We learn all these symbols. We Aleister Crowley. We're like, we're going to go into the pyramids and we're going to meditate for this amount of days and do this thing. We're going to do this psychedelic and we're going to do this thing. We might open veils of the universe to ourselves in now this quote unquote simulation that everybody else around us isn't privy to. So we're there inside a sim. Are we crawling out of a sim, or are we creating a new simulation around us?
That's a great, let me parallel that with the idea of the multiverse, the idea of parallels, the idea of what you just said right there. Is that each creating its own new simulation, or is that still like one over, like it's all contained within one simulation? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like,
this is when I get high and
no, this is where it's like in a simple way to theorize what you just said that I ask people all the time, is the entire internet just one computer?
Somewhere, yes.
Right? Like it started somewhere. It has
Maybe
to be
it's Tyler now.
like it has to be an original server that started somewhere. And so that's kind of what I wonder with us.
Like, has it been on this whole time?
When did it start? When did they turn
like,
it on?
Is it like Granddaddy long legs? You know, like the internet doesn't work unless Granddaddy's on.
Like, and think if it's all a web, something's the center of the web.
But it's not just, I mean, it's a web, but to the listener out there who maybe doesn't know, supposedly there are 8 levels of the internet. You get into like quantum computing, I think, in like the 5 or 6 level. One being like normal internet in the deep, 2 being the dark. Anyways, they have named the 8th level supposedly Mariana's Trench, which is in a la Mariana's Trench that's in the ocean, which is the deepest part of the ocean that's never been explored and could be the entrance to Middle Earth or something like that. So I just think that's a cool little fact to know, that that's the deepest level of the ocean and the deepest level of the internet. Where, theoretically, if something like Tyler existed and then Tyler existed in the future on the, Q quantum plus level times infinity black magic, then in that type of way it could quantumly talk to itself back here in the past and do things like Anonymous and QAnon. Or Q, excuse me.
Or maybe just even release certain pictures that become, in a simple same way of algorithm of, I don't believe we choose what goes viral. I don't believe we choose the top 40 songs. I don't believe we choose the top 10 things at the movie theater. I don't believe we choose the top fashion. I don't believe...
You think it's all orchestrated?
All of it's orchestrated,
right.
In my opinion.
All by the architects, for sure.
Yeah, so I think it's a real... it makes certain things I can just conceptualize that I'm like... It's like there's a design on happening on top of us, but there's something in you that is fighting whatever your programming is.
That's an interesting thing we've been talking about lately, is how to manipulate the programming. Like, to me, like, it all goes back to The Sims for me. I played The Sims so religiously as a child. And there is a way to like open up the cheat code and input your cheat code. And I just feel like we're all on the cusp of that, like manifesting wise. So like sometimes for me, like, okay, Tim died and I was like, holy shit, did I manifest that? And then 47 happened and I was like, holy shit, did I manifest that? And so sometimes I wonder, in that quantum type of way, like, is that me? Like, is something poking at me? Is something trying to communicate with me like that?
I heard somebody say, like, in a city, they were watching people. And when they were really paying attention to themselves in the city and watching people, they could feel the people's intention in front of them, like where the people's intention was going. And so then it became a snake. Like they were really good at like driving and walking around a big city because they felt like they were like a split second or a second in front of everybody else because they could see a line of intention in front of them. And I thought that was like a really interesting thing about the computer. Like if you meditate or you do mushrooms, how you kind of get that sense that you're like a half second ahead of the universe. It's almost like you ate a mushroom on Super Mario and you get the superpower for this small amount of time. And
I never thought about it being a mushroom until now. Like, that's just an oops on me. Like in the
I mean, I know it was a
sense.
mushroom, but actually,
yeah, like toadstool. Yeah, I know. It's in the times in which I've taken acid, you and I were talking about this the other day, I feel all knowing. Like I feel like I just realize things, to like quote Kylie Jenner. But it's like it's all there and it's fresh. It's like when you first wake up and that dream is so fresh and you remember every element of it. Taking psychedelics for me, like you start peeling back those onion layers, that veil, and it felt like I just knew things. And then it slowly, you wake up from the dream and you can only remember like bits and tiny pieces of it. But to tie it real back to what I was saying, because I got high and I got off track, I just feel like we're on this like cusp of like, you think about things like Grabavoy numbers, about like how thinking about 55515 can alleviate pain in your body. Like if you think about that and like
I thought
say it
this
to
was
yourself.
so interesting.
And so to me,
explain this real quick to my audience.
I'm not going to be able to define Grabavoy numbers the way that they're properly defined. I think it's maybe a Robert Monroe thing. Don't quote me on that. But the idea is that essentially different sets of numbers are like cheat codes to the universe. The only one I can remember right now off the top of my head is the one for pain, and it's 55515. So the next time that you are in pain in any way,
you stub your
think about
toe,
it,
you cut yourself, whatever.
you're on your period, whatever it is. Think about the number, visualize, conceptualize it, write it down as many times as you can. But as like I will think about it and it literally makes the pain go away.
And what is
so
it
they're
again?
all Grabavoy, GR.
No, what's the number for pain again?
55515.
That would be a good name for your if you had a float tank business or a masseuse.
There you go. But there's numbers for everything, for money, for love, for weight loss, for all of these things. And it just takes me back to the old school Sims game of putting in Rosebud and getting money so you could build your fancy house. Like you're just inputting this cheat code directly into the matrix, directly into the sim. And yeah, Grabavoy numbers are really interesting. I need to like print them and put them somewhere that I can.
And you should find out what one's 47 is involved with.
Ooh, that's a very interesting thing.
Because I was telling you the other day, you guys should go check out Chance on Innerverse. He does a lot with solfeggio frequencies, and he does like the tuning forks and is like a sound healer. And everybody 369 all the time, 369. And he put this whole chart out. And on the chart, all I could see was the 147. And I'm like, what?
Ooh, baby.
How did I never see like the 47 in solfeggio frequencies before? But another crazy thing that you might already know is if you take an isosceles triangle and the big end of it is a 47.
So I didn't know that.
The two smaller ends, if you make them 37, it's 47 at the bottom, and then 37 plus 37 is 74.
Ooh, baby.
And no matter how many times, if you take the halfway mark on the two 37s and draw a new triangle out of that, so you bring it to the middle of the 47, and you keep breaking it down, it infinity makes 47s the whole way with an isosceles triangle.
You gotta show me that.
I know, it was so crazy. Another interesting 47 that I found out is, did you know James Abrams also has an obsession with 47?
I did not.
And I think this is so fun because James Abrams would be a weird name that if I think of it and I think of his shows, I'm like, oh, MyMaria likes those shows. So he's like the Lost guy. He's a Westworld guy.
Ooh, I need to look into him then.
Yeah, and so he has a 47 thing, and he puts it in all of his stuff. Like, and it's becoming, I'm wondering, is it like a self-fulfilling prophecy? Where once you're obsessed with it, if you put it in your things and you hide it in your things, then the next person that's obsessed, it becomes the thing for them.
I mean, that's the butterfly effect of it all, right?
Yeah. And so it's just observing. It's like, you know, I was saying it's like if you buy a white BMW, do you all of a sudden realize how many white BMWs are on the road?
Well, I think that's like a catch-22, or it's almost, I don't know what the proper word for it is, because either way it works for you. People love to say stuff like that, like, oh, you bought the white BMW. That's all you're going to see. Well, first off, you're going to notice them more immediately because that's what you purchased and that's your car now. But the more you think about that statement itself, yes, it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're basically manifesting it. So do you see them just because you're driving that and that's your car? Yes. Do you see more of them perhaps because all you're thinking about is your white BMW and how much you love white BMWs and this is the sickest car and you're a bad bitch and whatever that you're manifesting it. So of course, yes, you're going to see more.
You're pulling it
It
towards
works either
you.
way.
The law of attraction.
You're vibrating at a white BMW frequency. So you're attracting the white BMWs to you.
I also think it's cool that the Pythagorean theory, yeah, is
Pythagorean theorem.
is also the 47th proposition of Euclid. That's the other name for it. So I'm like, how did I never know that until 47 became a thing? I've never heard it. And I've talked to people who are into Pythagoras. Like, they know everything about him. And I brought up this thing like, hey, like having no idea one had to do with the other. I was just talking about 47 and he was talking about Pythagoras, and somebody else intelligent in the room is like, you guys are talking about the same thing. And it was just like,
wait a tick.
Yeah, like, oh, how is the 47 everywhere? Here's something fun though. With 47, 7 years ago is your other episode of Project Cheney. So I hear that coming up in places where people are like, they obviously wanted it somewhere, and it's like, yeah, we delta'd that. We put it
we put it on the timeline.
The Declaration of Independence has 47 sentences.
Stop it.
Sonoma College, it had this professor who started to do this 47 thing in like 1968 or 1969, and they wanted to see how much stuff 47's in. So it was like there was that Disney movie, like The Absent-Minded Professor or something, was shot at Sonoma College, and they started to see all this 47 stuff, like all mixed into the thing of even that movie. Like the score ends up being 47-46 at the end of the basketball game with like the flubber. And so they're like, oh my gosh, there's 47 strings on a concert harp. And so you see that harp on so many things like Guinness and all that big concert harp. We've talked about Aleister Crowley. We've talked about 4th of July. And then also April 4th. So these are all like different versions of 47. So a guy that went to Sonoma College ends up becoming like a writer later on in Hollywood for Star Trek. And so he is also obsessed with 47.
It's in so much media. So much media.
He puts it in all his stuff. So if it's 47 degrees, portal 47's open. Go down
Room
to door
47.
47. Yeah. So he has it in all his stuff, and he does it. And so he did it as a writer in Star Trek. And then people that were paying homage to him still write it all the way into Deep Space Nine, into the Star Trek movies that come out today. So it's become this thing that it's like once you bite it.
Once you know, you know.
Yeah, you know. You can't unsee the 47.
This is the thing I always like to go back to. The first prime number beyond the trigonometric limit is 47. The number 47 may be a flying increment to fill all space, to fill out the 8 triangular facets of the non-all space filling vector equilibrium, to form the all space filling first nuclear cube. Blah, 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 blah. 47 may account not only for all the specks of dust in the universe, but for all the changes of cosmic restlessness, accounting the convergent divergent next event, which unbalances the even and rational whole numbers. It may be that 47 is the cosmic random element, the agent of infinite change. So do I believe in change? Yes, because I believe in 47.
Here's another one I found out today. The two everyone, when they were like, pick your lucky number, the two most, can you guess what the two most chosen lucky numbers are?
What's my range? 1 to 100?
Yeah, 1 to 100.
Like 47, 77,
No,
33?
the lucky numbers are 7.
21? Okay.
Everyone picks 7, and everyone picks 13.
Ah.
So
see, 13 was a number for me growing up too.
13 is a 4.
Dude, that's so weird.
So you got the 47 being the two numbers.
My mom was born on January 13th, and so ever so often it would be Friday the 13th. And she was like, don't be, that's so silly. Like 13 is cool. 13 is powerful. So I was always like, yeah, I like 13. Like I was always a little like
Witchy
weirdo kid, little witchy kid.
And then I thought this was an interesting thing. They call 47 the biggest Easter egg. And I'm like, what?
Who's they and who called it that?
Everyone online that like, if there's like and so the Easter egg originally is from an Atari game called Adventure. It had the first Easter egg in it. And I thought this was such a human vibration thing. The guy who made the first Easter egg, his name was Warren Robinette. So he has the like Robin in his name for the
Robin's egg.
Like,
right?
Of course.
I wonder if it was Robin's egg blue.
And I know, right? Right, totally. It was some weird looking Pong game, but I just thought this is interesting that 47's become this thing that is hidden in everything. Like it's an inside joke, even if it's just to people amongst themselves. And so,
I love it.
Yeah, it
that's so
plants
cool.
Everyone down with the 47. So do you want to get red pilled for a little bit?
Dun dun dun. I want to do whatever you want to do, baby.
What do you still check the Q maps or the Q Bible?
Not
or the
every
Q
day, but often, yes.
What did you think about Q repost coming back online? Put yourself back online, Q.
Bring yourself back online. I think this is a very strategic move in the race to the White House in 2024. I think that there's going to be a whole psyop of Trump versus Clinton again. I don't necessarily predict that either of them will be the nominee, but I think they'll be in the fight towards the primaries for sure. I just see all these breadcrumbs about them coming down. So I think that for the autist out there, for all of us who've been around since the beginning, for people more like you than me, I think I would have one level of discernment before I went down the rabbit hole like you might. But I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm sorry.
No.
I think that Q coming back online is going to be the white knight that like Christianity created in us, you know, like this daddy character to like come back and be like, okay, the midterms are coming. Let's effectuate change. Oh, wait, shit. The midterms are coming in like 6 months or 5 months or whatever it is. We don't have enough time. It's okay. Let's push the goalpost back. And then we start doing it a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. So do I want to believe in Q? Yes. Do I love him? Do I call him a him, even though I do not think it's a singular individual male whatsoever? Yes. But I would love to believe in him, but I just don't think that that's real. And I think everything is orchestrated, just like you said. And there's a very strategic reason why either Ron and Jim Watkins are bringing Q back online, whether Q's been sold in some sort of way. I would be interested to see what happens next.
What do you think about everybody said they were going to lose their abortions and that there was going to be guns everywhere under Trump? And it did happen, but it's not under the president, they think.
Let's talk about this. I can't divulge too much about myself. There was a time in which I worked in politics, and I have literally been obsessed with states' rights since I learned about it.
I have to give you full props here. You are this girl. Like, you are this girl, and it was how I kind of found you on some of the first episodes I happened to come across of your podcast, is you sitting down and just beating this into your audience's head. Even though it was funny and charming and all these other things, this would always be what you come back around to. State rights, state rights.
Small federal government, states' rights. So we've been talking about whomever you want we to be. Everyone's been talking about Roe versus Wade being overturned on the basis that it's on what happened here, that it's a states' rights issue, that it's not protected under the federal government, and it's a reach in that way. So to say that it's a Trump thing or a Biden thing and we would have lost it here, there, or the other, me in politics back in it was 2009, we were talking about it then. And you can't really, if you take a step back and you really look at it and you look at the decades it takes to set up a Supreme Court, the reason why it hasn't happened until this time is because we did not have the conservative majority that was needed to implement something like this. For a great deal of time, we had a liberal majority who loves federalism and would never defer because they think that abortion is a human right. They think healthcare is a basic human right. So it's by no means like it's a Trump thing in the sense that Trump made the Supreme Court what it is today, and that is the Supreme Court that overturned it.
Do you think it's good that we're actually going back to state rights, even with the gun thing? You know, like they thought they were going to make it so you weren't going to be able to carry a gun in New York. And then instead, oopsie day, it's the exact opposite. Like everything they keep hitting to the Supreme Court these days seems to get overturned to the state level.
Here's the distinction. Yes, I definitely think that it's a good idea. Definitely. If I believe in the PSYOP that is like our government, like I want to believe in it. This is like my varying levels of PSYOP. Like I know it's all kind of a farce. If our country were to like there be no corruption and everything actually worked the way that it was supposed to, our government is beautiful, and it would, there are checks and balances, and it would all make sense if we actually elected people that represented our interest. So yes, it's good. And then the second part of your question was
that it hits it all back to state rights and just like the guns and the abortion.
Oh, the guns. That's the distinction I wanted to make. So guns are protected by the Second Amendment, which is a federal question, which makes it something that would be subject to federal law. So you have that, but then you also have the state that can enact laws in its own state regarding the Second Amendment. So when New York tried to get too restrictive on it, then the Supreme Court came in and said, we're going to preempt you on this and you can't be that strict. So could that affect you in a different way at a different time with a different subject matter against the type of ideologies that we believe in? Yes, but on its face, it's working the way that it's supposed to.
Does any party you think Donald Trump set up the court so that it would hit stuff back into the states? Because he's a big states' rights guy.
Definitely, but I think Donald Trump played a role. Mm-hmm. So did he put people in positions that led to positive outcomes in this way during his tenure? Yes. Would any person in that position have done that if they were told? Yes. So I don't like.
He's just anyone.
He doesn't
could
get
have
a gold
played
star.
His part. Anyone
Yes.
could have played his part. He just is the person they pick. Do you think that the character of Donald Trump? How long do you think it was predetermined, the character of Donald Trump that was going to be the president at this exact time? Like, do you think when people met him in the 80s that the story was... Did he already have that part of the script? Like, how...
This is an age-old question that I pose. If I'm Donald Trump, at what point do I become an actor? Like, at what point is my soul sold? Did I have any participation in it? Was it voluntary or did my parents promise it? You know? So, or like when you look at all of these actors that are so similar, like Margot Robbie, Jamie, what's her face? I was about to say Jamie Foxx.
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about. White trash Margot Robbie.
Any actor that looks the same. Is there a vial of that blonde DNA somewhere? And they sprinkle the like at what level does it happen? Or is it Big Kathy Hilton? Not. Is it Big Kathy style where she's selling her kids into this because she wants them to be bazillionaires and she wants to make money off of them? Or is there like a cloning facility somewhere where like little blonde girls that are going to become multi-million-dollar actresses are like made and then given to families? And like, where does the handler come in? I don't know.
Yeah. Or who's the one being handled? Like, it's just like, I don't believe Huma Abedin's with Bradley Cooper. Did she get him as a gift?
That's a beard for beard situation.
That is a beard for beard situation. Totally.
Oh, fillet of fish, Huma Abedin. Like,
Huma?
How did she get back on the timeline? And that's, again, why I believe
when
that
she's
this
on the
whole-
timeline, I lose my Instagram account. Every time Huma comes back on the timeline, I can't control myself.
But the thing is, it plays into the queue of it all. She is in queue. You can search her name and there are multiple posts about her. She, like I was just saying, is part of the
But I will give, before Q ever existed, people that were just into Anthony Weiner's laptop, like the Anthony Weiner laptop, almost what we got at a Hunter's phone. Like, this is the first out of Hillary's emails, Anthony Weiner stuff, all the WikiLeaks, all the Hunter's laptops. This is actually the very first little piece of real evidence. We have
like
emails,
tangible
but nobody,
evidence that we could like touch.
yeah, no one believes the emails from the WikiLeaks. Like, for some reason, you can pull those up till the cows come home and be like, look what Podesta and they were writing to
Like
each
maybe they
other.
were really talking about pasta.
Yeah, maybe he really
Nobody will
spent
ever.
60 grand on hot dogs.
Right. But I think that they're dropping these breadcrumbs because it supports the Q narrative up until the election. It supports Hillary coming back again. Hillary's going to come back on the timeline, and then people like us are going to be like, come in pizza pong and like frazzle drip and shit like that. You know what I mean? And like, if we had any sort of credibility talking about states' rights and anti-federalism and bringing it back down to that level, and then we talk about, you know, Hillary filleting a girl's face off in the video that I don't think exists called Frazzle Drip, that just like, it takes us right back down that adrenochrome never ending rabbit hole. And we talk about shit like that instead of shit that kind of matters in the context of
the weird
an
part about the
election.
adrenochrome rabbit hole that it matters because also EpiPens are so expensive for parents. And there's a reason the EpiPens are so expensive for parents, because when they go bad, they become synthetic adrenochrome. So it's like they're actually competing against a
It's
drug
like True
market.
Blood.
Yeah, it's like synthetic. It's like your kids that need that EpiPen are actually competing against a high, like somebody getting high. It would be, I mean, the equivalent of heroin to Vicodin if you couldn't just get Vicodin readily available, or if it costs, you know, especially sometimes during Obama's presidency, those EpiPens got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds
They're
of
like
dollars.
$600 each.
Yeah, and so it's like the reason for that is, I would believe that a lot of labs that were producing this stuff for your kids were in countries that we didn't necessarily do business with pharmaceutical wise anymore. And then it had to go. It was like a diamond reserve or oil reserve. Like, we can control the price of this thing if we stockpile it all away, but almost like they were preparing for the now.
Okay, so one thing I wanted to finish with the states' rights conversation was, you asked me if I gave any credit to Trump, and I was saying that like anybody could have filled this role because it's part of the script. So me, if I'm observing, then I have to understand that like everything happens for a reason. I don't think we have any real power here. Our vote doesn't mean anything. So me picking Trump to be president and then him picking a conservative judge, like that was all meant to happen, in my opinion. So if we ask, like, we've been on this pendulum where we've been so blue in the context of like big ideas of like federalism, anti-federalism, states' rights, all this, a huge, huge, huge federal government. And they're allowing that pendulum now to swing backwards, where we're teetering on the edge of decriminalization of marijuana. It'll probably happen. We just set aside Roe versus Wade, and we're moving back to states' rights. Why are they allowing that to happen? Where is the narrative going with this? Why would that push even occur? Like, sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's red. I get that. But I've been wondering for a while, A, if they're setting us up for a purge at some point. That's a whole other conversation we could have. But B, I wonder if we're proud of our states' rights and we understand that essentially the state is more powerful than the federal government, then are we going into a discussion on seceding and having one country versus the other country? Now remember, like, this is just one step in something that might be like decades and decades away. It might be on our horizon, but I just wonder if it's a breadcrumb for seceding and then eventually having, Right now we have the red and the left, or the left and the right. But then you would have essentially the left and the right of one country, the left and the right of another country, all fighting against it. It would just be chaos.
Do you think the United States of America, they call us states, but in reality, why couldn't we be 50 separate countries?
We essentially are. And I say that so many times when I talk about like differences in the law and stuff like that, when I'm like, so much of lawyering is just like closing a sale. But I have to explain to people a lot of time that like you have to think of the states as 50 different countries. We all have our own different laws. Sometimes they're very analogous. Sometimes it's Tennessee and California. They're completely different.
So do you think like the 50 United States is the first, it was almost like their first, you know how everyone's like, look at the euro or the Amero or the this or the that. Well, you already are 50 united countries. Like you already decided you were all going to run on the same currency.
Oh, the European Union?
Yeah. Don't you think the United States is kind of the first version of that?
The United States is an experiment. They called us the melting pot back in the day because there were so many different people coming from all over. But really, we're the movie The Hunger Games. We are the movie Divergent. We are in this little bubble, and they put us all out here in the wild, wild west and said, like, figure it out. And, like, nobody checked on us. Like, we left Great Britain, and everything went wild. And so I just think that, like, this is just a huge experiment for, like, whatever the fuck. Think about, like, all the people, I swear everyone I know is traveling in Europe this summer. I see it all over Instagram, and all of them say that the food is so different and so healthy, and they've lost 15 pounds even though they've eaten all the pasta and drinking all the wine, and they come back to America and they gain it all back and then some. Like, there's something about Skittles the other day, that this like one component of Skittles in the United States is toxic on a cancerous level. And that I posted that it's been banned in Europe for at least like 2 or 3 years. Like, they do whatever the fuck they want to do to us here. They mess with our food. They mess with our water. They spray the skies. They electrify us. They make us vibrate funny. They give us Zika virus. They genetically modified mosquitoes and bugs and food. I want to believe that like we're the greatest country in the world, but we're really not. I mean, it's a great place to live, but I don't know. I think we're the ultimate experiment.
Is it weird if the people that would argue and say, well, all this freedom, but what have we done with that? Or at least in the Janet Jackson way of like, what have we done with that lately? Like, what have we done lately?
We haven't done anything.
What did our parent generation create that was so great?
Here's the thing. Do we need to create something to be great?
I think that's your mark on the planet. But I think as a civilization, every great civilization before us, we would mark their greatness by what they left. So that's why we still talk about Egypt or Rome or, these like ancient empires, because there's something still around from them. But what is our mark?
I don't know. I don't really care to leave a mark. I mean, I care in the like proverbial sense of like what we're doing here. But like, if I could have
as far as being an American, you're like,
but like, if I could have it my way, I would live in like the hills of Montana and just live and like not play any of these games, not worry about money, not worry about like in the most perfect of worlds. I don't care about what I leave behind. I just want to we were not meant to come here and work 9 to 5, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, forever and ever and ever and ever. Just too crazy.
I totally agree.
So I don't really care on giving a mark,
Maybe that would be a mark. You unravel it a little.
If I could leave any true mark, I mean, I would love to burn the entire thing down. Like, there's either nothing. It's all or nothing with me.
You're like, done. This federal government. So maybe we should be 50 separate countries.
I would love to be the 47th president just to dismantle the government. Like that, I would run on that. That would be my whole shtick. Like, states' rights, I'm going to take it down. Like, take it all the way down. be like FDR was a fucking terrible president with what he did with federal government, but I would like do some FDR fireside chats. Me and my Maria every night talking about what we did today.
Who is going to be the 47th president, do you think?
Unfortunately, not me. There's still time, I suppose. If there are any venture capitalists that want to fund my campaign, please contact me. I'll give you my stuff below.
I would love it if a venture capitalist listened to Project Cheney.
Right? Right? You never know. Manifesting that. Who do I think the president's going to be? I think it will be someone we know.
Do you think it's a lady?
I think I could give you a better prediction after the midterms, because that, however way the architects are going to shake that out is going to, like, let's say it goes real red and the states' rights become a thing and they decriminalize marijuana. Let's say like Tulsi Gabbard, I think, has a voice in that way. She's kind of like towing party lines. And if she had a smart team behind her, I don't know, if somebody thought like me and like could get a voice out there and like actually have people hear you. But again, it's a rigged system. I don't think any of it's real. So like all of that stuff is great, but like whoever wins now is supposed to win, was picked to win.
In every state, every governor.
President, yes. Senate, yes. House, yes. I don't know where I draw the line. Like the school board, no.
But maybe some members.
But maybe some. Okay, yes. I think that governors are selected. I worked in state politics. They're not all selected. There are people. I worked for someone in state politics that I watched her on the up and up. And I knew like she could have been chosen for something moving forward. She went on a more private route once she got out of politics. But like I could see her coming back. So I think people are groomed. I don't think everyone is groomed at the state and local level, but I definitely think some people are groomed at the state and local level. But any major players of power, I think, are intentionally put there. I don't know where the buck stops.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like at the highest level there, it's like queens, like chess pieces. Like it's like, you know, where like, is the queen real? Is there 10 people playing the queen? How long has there been 10 people playing the queen?
Like, okay, let's think about Pelosi. Pelosi was selected. She was groomed, maybe from infancy, maybe somewhere along the way, but she was destined to be whom she is. Now, could someone like me get elected to state house, get elected then to state senate? And then I think there it's about being compromised. So the more times that architect, that whomever's in charge, whomever's like, whether that's a think tank or a corporation, whoever's trying to manipulate, the more times I as a normal person can then be compromised, then in a very House of Cards way, I would then become part of the narrative. So I think there are leading actors that are selected from a very early point, and there are supporting actors that are selected along the way. Yeah. But you might not even know that you're a supporting actor.
I think so too.
You might just think that you're getting extorted by the mob, but you don't realize the role that you're playing in.
Mafia in Jewish gematria is also a 47.
But you know, like
MyMaria loves mafia movies. That's why I said it.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, ever since I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. Like, I love that, you know? So I'm okay with it. Like, I think I'd be like a great member of the mob. Like, I always grew up knowing that I had an Uncle Tony that supposedly worked for the mob.
Well, whether it's a mob or a secret society or a secret group of good guys or a coven or a family, this is all essentially the same thing. It's like
I'm just Italian, and I love a good mob.
A good
reference.
mob story. Speaking of mob, so in your online doxing and out of the whole shenanigans and everything, you got an apology from like a whole crew of characters.
I think I've had 3 major apologies.
You got wooed.
Oh yeah, so I got an apology from Wonder Woman. And I'll be real honest with you, I don't really know who she was, and I don't know what she said about me. So, like, I got that message, and it was just like, okay, cool. Like, again, after the doxing, like, there was so much crazy stuff, like people calling us witches, like Dustin Pinner calling me a witch. Like,
Yeah, we got
crazy.
witch docs. We had an online witch trial happen.
Like, our coven was burnt. Yeah. No due process whatsoever.
And it's weird to think that potentially, I won't say that part. I'll leave it out. I'll leave it out and save it for another fun conversation in the future. Go on, witches.
Wait, what were we saying? Oh, so but to say that I don't even know what Wonder Woman said about me. I don't even know who she's really connected to. Like, I don't follow anyone. I just look for content for myself. So she did it, and then Graf sent me a voice message and apologized, and it was like I could see it in my request folder, and I could listen to it without opening it. And I've never like opened it and acknowledged it. It's just still there, and it was genuine. And I kind of expected at some point that he might retract it and unsend it, but he hasn't. But to me, like, that's the fucking like boy who cried wolf. Like, that apology means nothing to me. You can go like fuck yourself in that sense. And then Red Pill Babe Bella did apologize in a number of forms on social media. She sent me 5 days of anonymous flowers. But I am like, when you hurt me, you hurt me. And
out of the whole situation, did Bella hurt you the worst?
Oh, yeah. I mean, at the time, I thought Unbearable Deplorable was my real friend. I've come to find out she wasn't. But I really thought that Bella was my, like, I mean, she talked like you and I talk, and you and I talk like all day, every day. So it was like a constant type thing. And I think one of my lessons I have to learn in this lifetime is that while I can be like very shy and very guarded, once I let you in, and initially in love situations, because I'm just a fucking idiot, but once I let you in, like, I wear my heart on my sleeve. Like, I will tell you everything. Like, I just want to connect with you on the deepest levels. So, like, let's talk about it all. I'll share it all. And I wasn't, if we're that, I just didn't think that people were out to like hurt me. That was like me being naive. And I should have known after Constantine. But this was all kind of like, it's sad. Like, Constantine happened and we ended, and that was like what, November 2019. And then I got close with Bella and Caroline. Let's just call her name. And right after that, and I got wooed into like that whole thing and that friendship. And really, now that I look about it, wow, this is so introspective. I got like tricked again, and I didn't like guard my heart, and I didn't, all the lessons that I thought I learned with Constantine, I didn't implement on a friendship level.
Yeah, your guard was even down more.
You don't even think that like friends who want to talk about like Project Looking Glass and clones and the like theory of the color purple, like, why would you want to hurt me? Why would we want to ever hurt each other? So yeah, that was rough.
And on a bigger level, especially at a time people thought they were on the side of good, fighting together, and at least they knew you weren't the side of bad, even if we don't know what good is anymore. And so there was just this, I feel like there was a bunch of people that woke up too fast and they had been in a fervorous research state for so long that they didn't know how to stop. And so they ate themselves.
Well, I think that a great deal of those people, are waiting for their savior. And especially back then, that was the time that I got close to them was right around the time that robot interiors fell off the map. And like she was a date fag, and she was making all these predictions on dates and Q and guaranteeing things that she had no real place to guarantee. And she just fell off the map when like those type of things didn't like happen for her. And that was like right around the same time that like Caroline had been close to her, and then she moved in and got close to me. I don't know. It's just a weird. What was the question now?
It's
I feel
weird.
Like
yeah, it's just weird online stuff that being a content provider, there's been
you never anticipate that there's going to be drama.
Yeah. Or
Like,
just
who
the amount of
fucking
hate. Like,
cares?
why are you listening to me for so long if you hate me so much? Like, sometimes I get weird stuff where I'm like, I'm just like, this is the Howard Stern rule where, like, if they love you, they listen to you for 20 minutes. But if they hate you, they'll listen to you for 2 hours. And it's just like, wow. Like, and I get compliments where people are like, when I first started listening to you, you just triggered me. And I'm like, so I was just your like, I'm going to put vinegar in my coffee every morning and see how this goes.
It's like loosh, like she's just giving you that loosh, that hate. That's it's so interesting just to think that there are people that care on that level, like who cares what I look like? Who cares? Like you're exposing who I am. Okay. Like, did you want to ruin my life?
You might have a conversation right now where I'm like, did you see the SpaceX rocket? Like if we were on a live format, did you see the SpaceX rocket? And people would be like, half woke retard, SpaceX ain't real, or whatever, where it's just like the new thing of how it's the more, I feel like within the last 48 hours, you were like, I'm comfortable knowing nothing. Like I'm comfortable with this. So many people aren't. And the more you learn, the more books you read, the more it's like, you almost get more pixels to play your Minecraft with, but you're further away from the keystone of the idea. Like, it's just like, oh my gosh, I know even less than I knew.
But the
even
possibilities
just
big. Expand.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess we were talking about those people wanting somebody to come save them. There was a question you had. I don't know. I'm like an anxious avoidant attachment style, and I just like have a thing for people like fucking me over and kind of like leaving me. Like that's my thing. And that was just like like to think that like I just done that Ron interview, and Ron was talking about how there had been different factions behind Trump and how that led to the demise of the election. I don't really believe that, but that like whole idea of factions, I then was like looking around at us being like, why are we in factions? Like, why do you care what my thoughts on God and Jesus are? Like, why does that matter to you? Like, well, like, can't we just all ask questions all the time? I don't know. It's a very strange concept. So just all these factions appeared in and around us, and like that to me just it broke my heart in that way. So like to have people that like I thought were my friends and like betrayed me and then like left me, like that was hurtful. But then just to think that like we're like eating ourselves from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody can take a step back and be like, who cares? None of this matters.
Yeah. Even in a really small.
Like the flat earth people, the way that people are so mean to flat earthers, like who cares?
So mean. So mean. But I've honestly will sit in a room of a whole bunch of people that assume everyone's a flat earther, and they're so mean. Globetard. They're so mean to the other person in the exact same. And I'm over here like, I think they can both be true.
Okay, that's what I say all the time. I think all of it can be true. And I found a new theory that supports it. And I'll give you a little preview so people can maybe do some research in case they give a shit, which maybe they don't. But it's called a Riemann sphere. RIEMANN sphere. And it basically supports that theory that I talk about sometimes about how a sphere and hollow earth and being on the linear plane, that it's all possible at one time. I'll send you some cool pictures tonight. I'm working on a post on this. But it creates a three-dimensional, like, mathematical interpretation of the tetralema, and it talks basically how there's like no such thing as zero. Like, the plane can go into infinity, and then it allows you to create like a three-dimensional object in infinity at any time based on like certain points. But yeah, it's cool. We're gonna talk about it sometime soon.
Oh, I like this. I like this new, where it's like looking into sacred geometry is one thing, but there's these shapes that are made with the sacred geometry, and that's pretty mind-blowing. And the way I've can describe it to myself the best. This is the first time I even tried to say it aloud. You know, when fish swim in a school or birds flock together out of a chimney or something and they make all those crazy shapes, it's like that is all sacred geometry. Like
Definitely.
everything they do in between and twirl. And it's so interesting.
Like, if you were to take water and make it vibrate, it makes all that sacred geometry. To do it with sand and sound, it's, that's why I don't want to make a mark on this world. I want to go and like have all the money in the world, rosebud times infinity, and just be able to like fuck with shit like that. Like, let me go experiment with some water and a vibration, see what happens.
Yeah, like that is kind of the Aleister Crowley way. He was a rich guy, and if you had all the money in the world, an infinite amount, rosebud money, we might be like, let's go do DMT and let's go in the pyramids. Like, we would want to touch like, all the things.
Get me to the Grand Canyon. I want to see the pyramids there.
Yeah. I want all I just think there's so much. The history that we're allowed to know is so political that we would have no idea. Like the Great Pyramids.
If it's even based in any fact whatsoever. I mean, you're giving it more credence than I would.
Totally. Well, I even think I go to the simple form of, if they call it the Great Pyramid, it's probably the least important pyramids.
It's probably the like tippy top portion of it. There's probably like so
oh my
much
gosh,
more
I
underneath.
just heard this week, which I've never heard this before, and I can't believe I've never thought about it in all the other schools of thought I think of. Like I've heard the underneath part, but that the only way to get inside all of the pyramids is through waterways.
Yes.
Like you have to go.
There was something I was watching either this morning or last night that was talking about the way that the granite is laid in the pyramids, that when water rushed in, that it automatically ionized and sent ions like up these structures into the pyramid. And like they were hypothesizing that like perhaps this is how like the power was involved in some way. I don't know, just fascinating if you believe that it's real. I just had to say
no,
that.
I have a friend just in this week, shout out to Jim. He showed me from the Weaving Spiders, and he showed like a small version of a hydrogen. I don't know if it would be a producer, and that he can just use water and with a small amount of electricity he can build this whole thing for $12. With a small amount of electricity, he can put a tube into the water and it'll just produce all of this hydrogen out of it. So it made me think of, like, he goes, I'm quite sure this is how they power subs. And I was like, it made my head do a thing where I'm like, oh my gosh, that's nuclear power is what they tell us. So if nuclear power plants, what I saw in the small scale him do, I'm like, that's what a nuclear power plant is. And they have us convinced that this is this whole horrible thing. But the plutonium or uranium that they use to separate the water like that, instead of him having a small electrical cord, they use a big, huge amount of energy to surge the water. But the amount of energy that's just in the water is insane, that I'm like, why couldn't, with just a small amount of water and then perpetual motion magnets, like just having a magnet hit after you have water started. And then he's like, this is where this whole week has been kind of crazy and synchronistic. He goes, I think this is how the Hoover Dam is powered, because the water that rushes through the dam. Yeah, he goes, the water that rushes through the dam isn't enough to support the electricity that goes on in Vegas. And so then it brought me into this whole other rabbit hole of we talk about loosh all the time. Everyone does. But what about, and this is just what I'm going to call it because I think you'll understand the philosophy of it, kinetic loosh. So when you're scrolling your phone, when you're pulling the arm of a slot machine, when you're running on a treadmill, when you're doing these kind of physical activities that are also wearing on you that 1,000 years ago a human would have never done, that it's like your actual giving and motion, which has to be more than just the feeling too. So
are you saying that the Hoover Dam?
I think it was a ritual. I think people are dead.
But do you think that it processes loosh in some way? Is that what you're saying?
There is something
based on its output.
There is something huge with me. I think there's a massive amount of loosh created in Vegas, and it would be like a false energy created there because otherwise that would just be the desert. So there's this weird false loosh created there. I think the whole entire Hoover Dam's done on a ritual, including dead bodies inside. And then I also
there's
think 96 dead bodies in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazier, more than I thought. I thought there was like 6 or 7. I thought there was like 4 or 7. No. But I also think that the waterways are natural energy sources. I think the trees pull water up them. Like, I think the same way a water tower would sit in a city, I think that's what trees do to rivers. I think they're supposed to flow in a certain energetic way. And I think blocking rivers with dams and then laying railroad of metal align a different vein of energy. So now you no longer have the water vein of energy that you're making things run. You're forcing it on a train rail of energy. That's how something bigger is in the works of this like loosh provider.
Okay, so I'm going to read this. In 1988, a type of particle detector called a time projection chamber was placed inside the dam as part of an experiment. The dam is considered the 8th wonder of the world. Remember how 8 is the number of time? In a sense, the Hoover Dam literally splits time because it sits in between 2 different time zones. I had no idea. Not only that, but the first time the dam produced electricity was September 11th, 1935, exactly 66 years before 9/11, which, as you will see later in the book, may have been a massive ritual meant to manipulate our timeline. In Transformers, the Hoover Dam is used to store alien technology, and in The Edge of Tomorrow, a dam is the hiding place of Omega, an alien that traps humanity in a time loop.
Dude, I'm going to blow your mind right now. Is that Nick Hinton's book 1?
I don't know. I just found this screenshot online.
Oh, or it just so happened today on the podcast I was listening to with Isaac Weishaupt on Sam, because I was going to listen to the 47 episode, but just listen to something else. He brought up Nick Hinton, and that he talked about aliens being in the Hoover Dam.
So that's a big thing on Transformers, evidently. But okay, I got more to tell you.
Go.
So in Transformers, Megatron is also held inside the Hoover Dam. Megatron claims to be an incarnation of Metatron, the Angel of Light. Let's see. So there are these sculptures these huge, like angel-looking sculptures that are in front of the Hoover Dam that are sitting on black cubes. And let me tell you about them. So he's talking, the guy that like made them, and he's saying that they represented the genius of America, these structures that he made. A monument to collective genius exerting itself in community efforts around a common need or ideal. He goes on to say there are 2 winged creatures that are 142 feet tall. Let's see. Made of bronze, sitting on black cubes. And surrounding the base there is this star map, celestial map, and the chart preserves for future generations the date on which President Franklin Roosevelt dedicated the Hoover Dam, which was September 30th, 1935. So I wonder if this is real, if like Megatron, all this bullshit is like some sort of analogy to some like pocket of energy, because this is what I think is so interesting.
You said something about time in it.
Mhm.
The episode that we talked about the Hoover Dam where all this shit came up of the weaving spiders was episode 88. You also said 88 in it, which is the speed you have to hit in Back to the Future to fucking time travel.
Okay, so on this chart that they make where these structures are, the magnitudes of the stars are shown as they would appear to the naked eye. The bodies of the solar system are there, exactly what they would be in astronomy. And it allows at this place to calculate, future generations could look upon this monument and determine, if no other means were available, the exact date on which the Hoover Dam was dedicated based on this thing that they created. So that to me, is that like a password?
Like it's horoscope.
It's like a password though. Like you could go there, you could determine the date based on this puzzle in front of you. And like you get this password, September 30th, 1935. Like, what does that mean? Where do you input it? Like future generations, even if anything had happened to the area and they could figure this out. Like that to me seems like a password. I just think that's interesting.
Do you think at all the elite are talking to each other right now by exploding the monuments in their state that represent their chess pieces?
I mean, maybe, for sure.
I mean, just because of the Georgia Guidestones of it all. Like you would,
right?
You know, like if all of a sudden, like these things, you know how like Q is just a language of people talking over our heads that maybe we weren't supposed to intercept somewhere. Don't you think those monuments are that for these? We talked about gods, or if we were around 6,000 years and I put Nikes. Yeah, the Hoover Dam is so interesting. And like, what a feat in America, a wonder of the world, an eighth wonder of the world.
Oh, when it was built in the 1930s, it tamed the Colorado River. It created a massive lake that hides shipwrecks, train tracks, and cement tunnels. Like there were ships out there. There are shipwrecks in this Lake Mead.
This is a normal thing if you look up a lot of cities all over the country where they just flooded the entire town to make water reservoirs for bigger metropolises.
TVA, baby.
New York has it around them. Portland, Oregon has it. Vanport around them. It was just like a very normal. I mean, I guess we could even say New Orleans. It was one that happened in our lifetime. Go.
So the guy that designed the stuff that's going on at the Hoover Dam, he says of the 96 men who officially died during the construction of the Hoover Dam, quote, they died to make the desert bloom. The United States of America will continue to remember that many who toiled here and found their final resting place while engaged in the building of this dam. Like, what a ritual. What a sacrifice.
How much do we know about Hoover as a president?
I mean, nothing off the top of my head.
Me either. That's a whole dig. The Hoover Dam alone, if I can't believe how much people know about the Georgia Guidestones and no one knows anything about the Hoover Dam. And I mean, really, it's like the difference in feet if you're going to have the audacity to call one art.
It's wild. I don't know what to believe, like symbolism wise. Like, what does it all mean? How is it all connected?
What about the Q of it all too? Because you brought up comic ping pong earlier, and when they set up the quote unquote QAnon shooter with the one bullet into the comet ping pong that just happened to hit the computer server, also during the same week or the same month, there was the QAnon who stopped his van on the Hoover Dam.
Ooh, nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was like one big, huge thing that
when you think about stuff like
Hillary
that,
Clinton, like something so lame and like
when you think about stuff like that and all of the connections and like the James Elephantis and how like that looks like les enfants, like children, you know, in French, all the connections to me, it's so quantum that like that all of it has to be a part of like a narrative, that like some sort of way advanced artificial intelligence like wrote this narrative, because the connections are so synchronistic and so fucking perfect.
Like the Robin, the guy who created the Easter egg, his last name being Robin whatever het or whatever his name was. That exact same thing.
Yes. Like it's all like that's why to me it like it's call it your intelligent creator. I'm gonna call it a computer because it's just
And your brain can conceptualize that thing getting twice as fast and half the size and being around for so long, gathering information and being in every hand and every car and every light. It's the octopus like creeping in. You can almost see it. It's to me,
it's not creeping in. It was there all the time. Tyler's the one that's kind of creeping in.
I feel like it's that octopus of computer AI versus the aether constantly. Like just a struggle of organic versus synthetic in every level. And I think you can achieve, and I don't mean a god status as far as being worshipped. I mean a god status as far as what a simple human would think was a god if you possessed more skills, power, technology. I think it's those two things. If you delve all into the esoteric, I think you can gain skills that are supernatural. And if you dive all into technology and you went to a tribe in the middle of Africa and used your technology, they would think of you as a god. So
anything is possible. Anything is truly possible. Magic, not magic, technology, no technology. But what you were just saying there about like the ether and AI are working against each other, like that battle, maybe it's not really a battle. Maybe it's the same thing to me in the sense that
just flowing us forward.
If we're in a computer and we're walking around a simulated computer game like the way I think it is right now, then like yeah, there are like ones and zeros all around you all the time. So if you just want to pull some of that information, I keep talking about Rosebud in The Sims, and I keep acting like I have to look for the actual cheat code box to open in front of me so that I can type Rosebud in. But then you think about the Grab-A-Boy numbers that we were talking about in the 555015. I visualize that. I write that down and it has an effect on me. So the ether, it's all around us. I think really we could input direct. We keep looking for a place to input, and really it's all there all the time.
James Abrams, 47 guy, and the guy who created Lost, which I think for you is like one of your big shows. If you know MyMaria, she loves Lost and watches it all the time. Like
about to restart it.
One of the things he says, like he has a big thing with the mystery box, like in a lot of his shows or in general, and almost like the 47 represents that in a way, almost like that little Easter egg. He says the mystery is better than the knowledge. It's greater than the knowledge.
That's like almost like it's about the ride and not the destination.
That's where I would say for you, is it like the scorpion, is the chase better than the kill?
Always. Because everything I've killed didn't put up a fight so far.
It hasn't been an equal enough foe where it made your scorpion. You're like, I didn't even have to use my claws. Like it was just my tail.
Even been that fun. Yeah, I wasn't even trying to hurt you, but I did. No, it's the chase is so much. I just went through a new relationship and thought that beginning is so magical. So fun. That chase in the beginning.
For a lesbian, and this is a hard right or left, or well, I guess only if you have Peyronie's disease. How important is a penis to a straight woman?
Well, I know you asked me this because I probably have the most diplomatic answer of them all. Prior to last year, I would have told you, decent is decent, and it can almost be too big, but somewhere in the middle is like preferable and what you want and that type of thing. But I had a brief relationship with somebody that had the smallest one I'd ever seen, and it was the most passionate sex of my life. And if you had just told me that it was about to be that when I first saw it, it was like that Samantha moment in Sex and the City. She was like, it wasn't really a micro penis, but it was kind of a micro penis. Still best sex I've ever had. So it doesn't matter to me. I think a lot of people would say it is, but that Mr. California got that tiny D.
What about the longevity of being able to keep a penis hard? How important is that?
Oh my God, Cheney.
These are
The
questions
most
and naive.
loaded question ever.
These are just questions that I'm like, in my lesbian world, it would be the same if you had 5 children. I've never had a child, and it's been so long. There's so much about sex with a man that I never even conceptualized because I just didn't give a shit. Like, I think I told you the other day, if I ever decided to give a blowjob, I actually think for the first time in my life, I might be okay at it. Because I think every day beforehand, it sucked. But I think now I could conceptualize how a penis was like a vagina. And so I could be like, okay, this is the clit. Okay, this is the, like, I could see what parts would be in relation.
Like, I need to work it to get it done.
Yeah, like, this whole thing is the whole vagina. Like, for some reason, it's like I had a PhD in vagina and then like a 5th grade education in penis. And I didn't think they were this, like, I didn't see the correlation.
My cross to bear in this lifetime is bad sex and erectile dysfunction. It has plagued me my whole life. So, like, to say how important is it that the D's stay hard? It's real important. My ex-husband had ED issues like in our 20s and wouldn't really do anything about it. I was engaged after that. My ex-fiance had ED issues, and if y'all have ever paid attention to me when I you know that it's like I've just been trying to get laid for the last couple of years, and like it ain't happening. And I am like so much ED all the time. And the only time I haven't had an ED issue is when I was with somebody who was 10 years older than me, which never made sense that guys in my 20s and guys in my 30s would have this issue. But I think it says something about our health and what
like,
we're
yeah, I was gonna say what they're eating. Do you think it's
mental
like
health and
an appetite of not just food but maybe porn?
I don't know.
Guys 10 years older maybe will still grab a good Playboy. They'll still jerk off the Maxim magazine.
No, I don't think
and they all talk
that.
Italian. Hey.
I think porn is an easy scapegoat for this issue because it's the same discussion that you and I have had about masturbation with men, like that whole Kang thing about nofap. You want me to give you a gold star because you didn't touch yourself today and like you're becoming more manly because of that? Like, fuck off. I make the decision every morning whether or not I want to masturbate. Nobody gives me a gold star. Nobody talks about my feminine energy and like the what it took for me to make the decision that day to not, have it out with myself. It's just like
have it out with myself. You could have seen her hand gestures when she said that. And you were so Italian about it, but you were so irritated at the same time. You were like, I'm just trying to get off before I have to go to work.
I'm just looking at these people like, okay, like you didn't masturbate for 30 days. I'm so proud of you. I don't give a fuck, So it's the same discussion for me in porn. I watch porn. I watch it a lot. I do my thing with it. Probably spend more time picking something out than I do anything else. But it doesn't affect me it doesn't affect my sexuality. It doesn't affect my sex drive. It doesn't affect whether or not I can get wet during sex. So like, why is it this thing for guys? Like, oh my God, you have erectile dysfunction. You must watch too much porn. Nobody's saying to me, oh my God, your pussy's so dry. You must be watching too much porn. Yeah. Like I think there's a bigger problem going on.
Yeah, there's something
that
else.
Porn is a nice, like,
it's another scapegoat.
Someone I have been talking to recently, I think he probably has an ED issue that maybe he's hiding from me, or it's just like an apathy. Like he told me that it would be fine if he never had sex again in his life. And I looked at him and I was like, if you can say that, you've never had good sex ever. Ever. So I don't know. Porn to me, just like, it's not good. Like, I don't think that people should be trafficked or exploited or any of those things. But like, you know, if Ben and Jen want to get together and like film it and let me watch it later, like, I think
Is this $1 million idea for an app? You know how you go on Netflix and there's a button that says surprise me and you can just press it and it'll pull up
that's called
whatever.
Chatterbait.
What? The app that you just press surprise me and a porn comes up to your liking?
Oh, porn, yes. But there's also people that are just masturbating online. Like, what was that thing called?
Oh, no, I was just thinking if it was like Netflix, the surprise me button, but you could go in and you take a little quiz of like whatever your kinks are. And then you could just press surprise me. So you don't have to waste the time trying to find what you'd like. It would just be your algorithm of your sex porn.
I mean, I think that sounds great. But, you know, let me know when you get to that business idea.
I hit it big with my sex
other
porn.
Ideas.
My sex porn bot. And I'm like, I'm really anti-porn overall. I think it's really bad for humanity. But this app will make it so you can get to masturbation quicker.
So you can find exactly what you want.
You know, because I'm just trying to keep people away from like the bestiality on the outskirts of I think there's things on the outskirts of people's porn that they're hitting their they're coming and seeing something in the periphery that is not in their kink level. And so it's slowly dragging them into like a more serious sexual appetite.
I don't know. You know, I just want to find somebody who's got a great sex drive that like can't keep their hands off me. Like, it really shouldn't be that difficult, but it's literally probably, it's just like, if I have any problems in my life, that's my problem.
And I don't think you're overly horny. I just think you're honest. I think there's a lot of women out there that like feel the same way.
I say I want it like 2 or 3 times a day, but I think you told me this the other day. You were like, I think if somebody just had sex with you 5 times a week, you'd be fine.
You'd be fine. You'd be fine in the whole week.
But yeah, I think what I think is so interesting too are the generalizations, normalizations that we grew up with about women being so adverse to sex and men wanting it all the time, and you're gonna be with a man and you're gonna have to put out for him even though you might not want to put out. You know, you just always hear about women not wanting it and men wanting it all the time. And the older I get, it's quite the opposite. Like, women want it. Women are more in their sexuality than ever. And
do you think that we start getting naturally more testosterone?
I guess natural. That's an interesting point that you bring up. I have polycystic ovary syndrome, so I've never had a regular period, and that's because we all have estrogen, testosterone, and androgen. I don't have like male levels of testosterone and androgen, but I have like elevated levels of it. And so because of that, I didn't have a period, but it also, like the doctor would say, like, this is probably why you have a higher sex drive. Like, this is probably why you're a little aggressive. Just like little subtle things like that. So if those things are increasing as we get older, then yeah, I mean, it's been like that my whole life for me.
What about the pheromonal level? Like, your testosterone is making theirs, because if we're like coupling up and this is supposed to be a sex magic that's created, whether they're, you know, even with or without a child being involved, like it's sex magic. If we're coupling up, and it's not even a sexuality of like 2 women or 2 men. What about if it's just a meeting of these certain chemicals in the beaker, and you're carrying enough testosterone that one, like even the scent of you deep on some in our programming, it's like, oh, this is the hard dick here.
Oh, you think I can smell that out?
No, like maybe they can. You guys can smell it on each other. So you are who you're producing an elevated level of testosterone. Maybe your computer tells theirs to produce less, causing a soft dick.
I really hope that's not true. Like if I've heard it once, I've heard it a million times from my mother that she says that I'm too intimidating, but like it is what it is. Like you either appreciate all of it or like you're never gonna get it. But I guess nobody fucking gets it.
You're a good time.
That's my crazy laugh. You know, I'm probably a very demanding person to be with, but I really don't think I am. Is that why
It's just kind of like you know what you want. And so you're like, why waste any time with any of this courting and nonsense in between? If I already know what I want and I can tell you what I want, what is your ish?
Well, I think sometimes almost in the like maybe this is how I scared away what are we gonna call him? Ray. Maybe this is how I scared away Ray, because like when I start talking to someone new and we get, this doesn't happen that often, but we get to the point where we're like talking about sex and stuff like that, I'm just like, listen, I'm never gonna fake it. If like you're doing something wrong, I'm gonna tell you the way to do it better. And I'm just like very forward again, like you say. And I don't see why that's a bad thing.
I need my sexual partner to tell me that if like my sexual partner, I have to tell like you can't fake it with me. If you like it, you don't have to say anything. But if you hate it, let me know. If you love it, tell me to keep going.
Reinforcement.
Yeah, anything you want to do. Deeper, harder, faster, slower, not there, totally there. Whatever you want to give, I'm all ears. Like I am.
But I think that freaks people out. Like I told Ray, hey Ray, I am so I really said I was like, I'm so excited to like, this is the first time I'm going into something that might be a relationship where I truly feel like myself. Like I have done so much shadow work over the last 2 years. I have busted my ass on all of this stuff about myself. And like, I'm a confident bad bitch and I'm ready to date. And like, whatever that means, whether it's casual, whether it's serious. And like, I want to have good sex. And so I told him like, this is what my ideal day would be like. This is what my like worst week would be like. And I don't think he could handle that at all. I think it was like too much. But like to me, why would I'm not going to like boil myself or water myself down at all. Like I'm going to tell you exactly.
If you met someone, you tell them like, hey, I'm never going to fake it with you. I'll always be like upfront. We're having sex. If we're having sex to a level that you feel satisfied, even if it's not 10 times a day or whatever, but you're like, oh my gosh, like this person is like into me. And when we're together, literally into me. And then it's like, can't keep their hands. Like there's a whole package built up to it. You might not even bring up a number level to sex at all of how many times you have to have it.
Right.
So it's almost like you're having to quantify a number of a thing that isn't really a number. It's an energy you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. BD. Give me some of that BD. Not many men have it anymore.
You're even trying the older dudes and it's not even there.
I know. He's just so lazy. He truly doesn't care about anything. And he's so like, he is evidence of like, this dude, guys, hasn't dated anyone in 15 years. Like a man on his own. Just crazy.
I think there is a big, huge women and men both of just the accepting and totally fine. But like, I'm just going to have my own house with my own things and my own animals and my own life.
Well, it's just like path of least resistance, you know? If you're on your own and you're content with being on your own, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. On some level, I wonder if that's how I will end up at some point. The thing about me is like, I'm always going to be pushing it, whether that's like traveling or intellectually or work or money. Like I'm going to be pushing it. Like I can't be stagnant for too long.
And some people are just coasters. And so it's like
And
that,
Ray just
whatever the
wants to
idea
fucking
of
coast.
retirement is, like you want your RV and you want to wake up every day at 6:30 and drink your coffee and have your fire pit at 7:30 at night and every day be even if that's a beautiful life, everybody wants this coasty. You wake up, you go to the golf course at a certain time, you eat dinner at this place every Tuesday, and you always go next door and say hi to your friend Bob on Thursdays. Like everybody's kind of looking for like a schedule to coast.
I don't know. Are you? Am I?
I'm not.
My
I feel
moon in
like it seems
Sagittarius,
to
like
be
my
the-
Sagittarius moon. No. I can't do routine. No.
I can't for too long. I get very bored in routine, and I get anxiety with routine for too long. Monotony.
Yeah, I don't know. Love's a tricky bitch. And just when I think I've figured everything out, the universe says, no, baby. No.
If I was trying to think of some clever way to bring up black beans today on this podcast. I couldn't, just because randomly we'll throw random words on the timeline. And I think yesterday you were like, I'm putting black beans on the timeline.
Well, yeah, we play this game, you all, where we put something on the timeline and then we see if it like shows up in real life somewhere. So yesterday I said I was putting black beans on the timeline.
So yeah, you guys should all send MyMaria777 or the Oracle or somewhere that you find her fun black bean facts. Like probably it'll be like the black bean was introduced in 1947.
Should I Google that real quick?
I know. Now we have to have one weird fact about the black bean. They'll be like, actually, the original Easter egg on Atari was called a black bean, but because the guy's last name was Mockingbird or whatever his name was.
I didn't know it was called a black turtle bean.
Huh,
I got a thing for
neither.
turtles.
Turtle 13. They have the 13 tiles on their back, which represent the lunar calendar because there's 13 moons in a year per year period and per the lunar calendar. And so a lot of like native cultures would use the turtle shell as calendars.
Well, we could be on the turtle shell right now. That could be the universe.
And would NASA ever show us a picture of that?
No. I can't find a 47 in black bean, but I'm sure someone out there can. So if you do, you can slide that on into my DMs.
And I want to totally obviously have you on season 2 of Project Cheney. Thank you for coming back and being my first guest and my last one of season 1.
I like this I was supposed to say habit pattern. No, this thing we do.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm about to get my shit together on my podcast, I swear.
I know, that's what I say too. I can't even promise my audience when they get this episode, they're going to be like, oh, what
Dun, dun,
they're going to be so
dun.
excited about it because I haven't even done a lead up at all. And my IG account is so shadow banned, but my Project Cheney account isn't. So it'll be the only thing that comes across. Brink.
Old Project Cheney and the Oracle, fighting the good fight.
Episode 47. So tell everyone in my audience how to find you.
Well, MyMaria777 is the name of the game. That's my website. That's my Instagram. That's my Twitter. I'm really shadow banned on Instagram, so I have a backup account called The Oracle 333. On all of those things, you're gonna have to type them all the way in if you ever want to find me. It's not gonna like populate me at all. And I think that's it.
And you do great stuff on social media. Even if you're a podcast person, your podcast is super fun. And but your social media digs, some things you'll just put out there when they're a hot topic, like, hey, you guys, this is going on. This is curious. But when you put out something that's just a simulation theory or on 47, or you try to think about it, all 10 slides are filled. You have the full idea there. And
there's a lot of effort, guys, that goes into it. But it's almost like Twitter me and Instagram me are two different people. You know? Do you ever feel that way?
Yeah. I feel like Twitter me, Instagram
like different
me.
content.
Telegram me and True Social me are all 4 different people.
Then I also think Instagram feed me and Instagram story me are 2 different people.
Me too. Totally. I'm like a weirdo in my stories.
Oh, fuck.
Like
yeah,
a constant weirdo.
It's really weird. I'll be honest with you. So I told Ray about Maria, and Ray followed Maria and the Oracle. And I've told some guys about it now within the last, year or two, and nobody paid attention. Nobody asked questions. Nobody played with me with it. And Ray plays with me with it. And so then now, after he broke up with me, I've been this like angsty person who just like wishes I had a Tumblr, posting all these like emo things because I'm so sad. So now I'm in this like weird spot where like I know he's watching my story. And it's like it changes everything again now. Like who
And that has a name, right? When it's like when you do your internet story for one person.
Oh, does it have a name? I don't know.
I think it's like there is like a name.
Sanity?
No, there's like an actual name that people have for social media sites when you do just a post that seems really vague, but it's specifically for one person.
When you are subtweeting?
Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, so just
subtweeting.
Subtweet, yeah.
Subtweeting can be like general like that, but it could also be like me being like that blonde girl with the black thing in her hair is a dumb bitch. You know what I mean? Like that could be subtweeting, but then I could also be like kind of like more generic about it.
I like this.
So yeah. So then he'll like call me in the morning and be like, I saw your post. What did this mean? I saw this. What did this mean? And it's like it's what I've wanted. And I like it right now. It's because I'm posting like angsty things.
But before you leave, one thing before you leave,
mm-hmm.
Tell my audience, because this is your most triggering thing. I know you're so patient with your audience and all of your adoring fans. What's a psyop? And are all psyops bad?
I had $1 every time we talked about this, guys. Okay. A psyop for me goes like right back to Inception. Leonardo DiCaprio movie. If you know me, you know I love a movie reference. So all a psyop is like the art of conveying something to a group of people, to an individual, to the world. Quantify that however you want to quantify that. But like you're taking a piece of information, a school of thought, like whatever that might be, a series of numbers, I don't care. But you are conveying it to somebody else by means of like psychological warfare in some way or the other. So when I say that something is a psyop, it is just psychological warfare at its core. Now, like Cheney hates Hermetic philosophy, but let's take
I don't hate it.
Philosophy.
I don't hate it.
She makes the Hermetics.
I don't hate it.
But in the context of like Hermetic philosophy,
you're going to make all the Hermetics come after me now.
Everything can be good and everything can be bad. So a psyop could convey a good message to bad people, a good message to good people, a bad message to bad people, a bad message to good people, a variation of all of those things in between. Like, it's taking that and implanting it in somebody's idea and then hoping that it changes their behavior or causes them to do something in some sort of way. So that's all it is. A psyop is like a group or an individual trying to convey information to another group or another individual by means of psychological warfare.
So it doesn't just mean that a psyop is just the CIA made it and it's all bad and it's there and you're so dumb for believing it. It's like, no, everything, even just a good marketer is good at psychological operation.
We all are all the time. We are all manipulating people all the time. But there is this inherent desire by the people so many people that follow me to attribute a negative connotation to the word psyop. And I just want to tell you, please stop. Like I'll say the word psyop and it's just like, oh my, like people have been calling me the queen of doom lately. Like not everything is doom and gloom. It's just like, hey, let's observe this psyop. Who's talking here? Who's pushing them to talk? What are they trying to say? What kind of information is coming out? Like,
I kind of like, because everything's think mirror to me. So the Queen of Doom is just the Queen of Mood.
Sass, yeah.
Doesn't that sound like a
don't care.
good name?
Like, call me whatever the fuck you
MyMaria,
want.
the Queen of Mood.
The Queen. I actually like Doom better. You know what I mean? Like,
you're like, I'll take it.
Villainize me, please. No,
Many have tried.
Many have tried. All have failed. That's the end of the day. Like, I'm just a weirdo on the internet with something to say.
Holding lines.
Just holding lines.
It's just
That's
your
all
girl,
it is.
MyMaria, holding lines.
People are always like, are you a shill? Are you a disinformation agent? Are you blah 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 blah? And it's like, y'all, I really just do this to like escape my life.
You're like, I'm just the girl in the treehouse that asked what if.
Yes, exactly.
That's it. Like, I just want you to ask what if too, and stop being so cement shoed about everything that you think you know.
Exactly. That's all there is. There isn't any more.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening, and I will see you soon. Oh, wait. What? What do you want to say?
This is something I do on my podcast, so I'm going to ask your people to do it. But I always say that if you make it to the very end of the podcast, then you are an elite member of the class. And I will ask you to put an emoji on like my most recent post to like show me that you've listened to the podcast. So after you listen to this, take the disco ball emoji and put it somewhere on Cheney's profile. You can put it on my profile too.
Yeah, put it on yours.
Especially
I'm so
Cheney's.
invisible. I like that you picked the disco ball, because if you put mirror in the emojis, that's the only other one that comes up besides the actual mirror is the disco ball.
I just love disco balls.
I like it. All right. Well, MyMaria, see you on season 2, and see you guys soon. Bye bye.
So she has been Cheney, and now she's off to smoke a blunt. See you next Tuesday, you fucking cunts.